what I was saying is just some of these kids will excuse their behaviors like, oh, I have ADHD, so I can't focus. And it's like, okay, you do have ADHD, but you still have to try to figure out how to work with it. Like you still have to do schoolwork. You don't just get dismissed from it. You might fall under the special education category, but you still are smart. You still have to do things. You still get to do things. You can't just say, well, a lot of kids, excuse my terminology, but a lot of the kids I work with, they say, well, I'm sped, I can't do it. I'm like, well, that doesn't mean you can't do it. That just means you're not going to try. So it's a very different mindset. And it's one of those things I sometimes hate when kids do get labeled or get told that, you're diagnosed with this. And it's like, okay, they might have that, but sometimes it might be better just to not tell them right away, because they will just dismiss some of the behaviors and actions that go on. So it's one of those touchy subjects, I think, in education.
One of those tricky things, yeah, because it's like in some cases a diagnosis or a label might be necessary in order to get the kids the additional like interventions and supports that they need. But I mean, just like anything else, like sometimes those situations can be taken advantage of, or, like you said, students might not try as hard or they might not think they're capable. And I think that's where, as teachers and counselors and administrators, like just really like focusing on student strengths and abilities is like what is going to make a world of difference. Because if we go along with, you have, like XYZ, so yeah, you're probably not going to be able to do this assignment or whatever it is, like that doesn't prepare them for, being ready to face all the challenges they're going to face throughout their lives outside of school and once they're done with school. So yeah, it definitely is a tricky situation.
Yeah, and I think it's good that you mentioned that not only is it us needing to label, like not only is it them getting the labels, but sometimes they need those labels to get the help that needs to happen early on. And then they're stuck with that label throughout all of their K through 12 education, especially if they're in the same district the whole time. So it can be diminishing almost a little bit, because they can kind of outgrow some of that or work past some of it, learn how to handle it, maybe still have some of those things going on, but also they know how to work with this so they can continue to progress forward just like everyone else. So it is one of those sticky situations, kind of like what you're saying. So.
And I think that ties back to a lot of the readings that we did this week too. Probably my final thought on everything, that a lot of these different like programs are data driven, like MTSS and PBIS and whatnot. Like we have to look at data on many levels, like data as a whole school. What is the student body like struggling with the most, so that we can provide interventions for the whole student body? What are specific students or groups of students needing, so we can provide those interventions? And then like each individual student, like what are their needs? And like the data and the review needs to be continuous. Like we can't look at a student in second grade and assign them, like a reading, like I'm not in sped, so I don't know like the proper terminology, but like assign them like something related to like they have trouble reading, and so they get all these interventions. But it's like at some point they might actually get to their like appropriate academic level, and so we have to like be able to look at data and say like, okay, like these interventions are no longer needed, this label is no longer needed, and like make those adjustments. And that's why too, like something I was reading like with MTSS is like it's different for every school or every district, because it's based on the needs of that school or district. So like how we do things in Hayes is not going to be the same as how you guys do it in Newton, because it has to be tailored to the needs of the student body and each student and group of students and whatever. So I think that's what does make it tricky, is like you can't just look at like one like structure and be like, yep, that's exactly how we're going to do it. But that's why, there's like, the in-school counseling programs, like we're learning about like different ways to look at data and to build programs to support students in like in a tiered system. And like having people that have that expertise, you know, whether it's counselors or administrators or whatever, to be able to tailor it to like your student body. Yeah.
Yeah, I think my final thought, I guess, it would be just all of these success models are only successful if they're implemented in a positive way for each individual district, kind of like what you're saying. So, and I think we all kind of agree that implementation and execution is very, very important when it comes to all of these things. And I think, like you said, it's not a one size fit all type solution to a district. We can't see, like in Newton, we can't see that it's working in Mays and say, okay, we're going to take that and put it in our school, and make it work. Because you have to kind of customize it to your population, your student body. So definitely, it's one of those things that I think for any success model to work, we have to make sure we are implementing it the most effective way possible, tailored to our district. So.
Well, just to pick that up as sort of a closer for me, that's kind of the nature of a model, right? And so that's the thing that I always feel like is important to remember with any of these. As you're saying, we get into this habit of, oh, it works, let's do that. But it's a model. It's a system that can work. Any of these systems can work, and any of these systems can just as easily not work, and all kinds of other things that aren't on this list of models can work. So I think one of the places where we get in trouble as sort of an institution such as we are as educators, you know, the institution of public education gets itself in trouble is we tend to like, again, these concrete measurable things. And sometimes that's great. And other times it just doesn't work. And I think even sort of a discussion of, well, these are the 5 success models, which is, I realize not quite what's going on here, but by highlighting them so explicitly, it tends to turn our heads to, oh, well, these are the ones that work. And then anything else is sort of like over here and you know, whatever. You know, obviously we can't study everything. But that focus, I think, sometimes has the effect of blinding us to other possibilities. So it's just something we need to be careful of. And with that, I am satisfied.
Well said.
Yeah.
I think that wrapped it up well.
There you go. Well, thanks for getting on, guys. It was great talking to you guys again, second week. So
yeah, thanks for putting it together, Kobe.
Yeah. Well, I will go ahead and get it downloaded and submitted for us. That way we can be done with it.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Kobe. Thanks,
There you go.
guys.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Take care.
You too.